and thank you for coming today. I want to make a few opening remarks. We appreciate the opportunity to meet with you today, and I'm going to ask Leota Wilkinson to come up, start working her way up in just a second. But it is a pleasure having you in our chamber, actually your chamber, and this belongs to you. We just kind of occupy this space here. A lot of good things are going to be happening. You're going to see that today. And it's going to be an open forum where you'll be able to ask questions a little bit later after the presentation. And I'm going to give you kind of a preview of things that are going on in the county. Before I get there, I would like to, our elected officials in the audience, actually, Commissioner Paul Adamczak over here to my left is your new Lee County Commissioner over in District 5 in Putnam County, which is, he represents the south side of 20 and going out to Barden and kind of goes kind of crazy on you all the way down to the Marion County line and the Alachua County line. And I think you meet the Clay County line too, all the way up to Barden. So yeah, it's quite a big area for Commissioner Adamczak. Over to his left will be our County Administrator, Mr. Terry Suggs. He has been a welcome addition to our staff and has created a major difference in this county. And I would be remiss if I didn't say hi to Phil Leary, the interim city manager for the Crescent City. So we thank you for being in the audience. Okay, well, good. You wear a lot of hats. We all know that. So, and my name is Larry Harvey. I am the County Commissioner in District 4, and I also am the chairman this year. So I get to try to keep all the Type A personalities together. I'm sure you don't understand that at all, being in the real estate business, but it's quite fun. Leota, would you come up here and make a few comments, please? Welcome.
Welcome.
You might want to move that microphone down a little.
So I'm wearing one of my other hats as well. I am Leota Wilkinson. I'm the Putnam County Council Chair for the Northeast Association of Florida Realtors. I just wanted to take a few minutes and thank the Planning Board and thank the commissioners who are here for putting this together and hearing our voices. Especially wanted to thank Larissa for organizing the event. I think it'll, do us all good. As you know, when we get new constituents in the area, we're usually the first person that they see. And so what we say as realtors affects our community, how we do business, and how we positively show Putnam County. And so I'm glad that we have this opportunity to ask questions. And again, thank you, Larissa, for organizing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Leota. Appreciate that. And I do want to say thank you to Larissa also. I think you and I talked almost a year ago, started working on this, and other things happened and kind of got on the back burner, but glad it was resurrected. It was very well needed. Larissa, would you like to make a statement or say hi to anybody? Hi, everybody. Okay. All right, good. All right, well, let me tell you a few things. I've been asked to tell you a few things that are going on in the county in the last year that I think is just, we've got a lot going on. There's a lot of planes in the air. We're trying to bring them in for a landing. I won't take a lot of time because this is your meeting, but I do want to talk about roads. That's very important in this area. For some of y'all who have been here a long time, we have an abundance of dirt roads, and Kevin Dersher taught me there's no good dirt road. Just sometimes it's better than the other times. So we have an abundance of that. And the commission a couple years ago decided to put more of the Better Place money towards roads, dirt to pavement, and resurfacing. Actually, as you know, as we start doing more roads on the dirt to pave, then we have to do more resurfacing as that time comes. But we have some roads out in the estates that have been there for longer than I've been around almost. So those roads are holding up pretty well, and we're starting to resurface those. One really neat thing that I'm very proud of that the board has decided when I got here, the MSBU roads were never going to be paved unless all of them would be paved. That would never happen because West Putnam is mostly the MSBU's. where the people are charging themselves a fee. There's a private contractor that does the work. They have a citizens committee. It's on their taxes. And we've gotten that changed where now we're doing MSBU roads in the West Putnam area. That's where the most of the MSBUs are. So that's a really good thing. You're fixing to see a new road coming on board soon, Lake Ida Boulevard. Those of you who know that area, we're trying to connect roads together, and that's the key. So we're seeing a lot of that happening. If you didn't know, the town of Interlaken got some money. I helped them get some money from DOT to do North Francis Street and McGill. Well, then we kept going down Mariners Lake Road down to the ball field, and now we've come out to 315. So if you ever really needed to bypass traffic off of 315, we could go all that route and do that. So it's a really good, and thank God for the state fund, the Scrap and Scott grant, and Leota, your boss, Bobby Pickens, Representative Pickens, for the work that he does. That money is invaluable to our area and for the things that it does. So roads, roads, and roads. You remember Rick Scott, jobs, jobs, and jobs? Well, we need roads are infrastructure. Roads are economic development. Don't think they're not. The next thing, the county has really done a great job of increasing our reserves and trying to hold our millage to a lower point. That's a great selling point, keeping our solid waste fees low. And our landfill fought very hard to keep that. And that's starting to pay big dividends for the county. Sewer and water expansion in the East Palatka area, you're going to see more and more of that coming along. We'd love to get it across the bridge out. I would love to see it out in the west end, the north end, but that's a little bit down the road. Vacant land sales, that's really been exciting. That was something that happened under the previous commission, and honestly, it started there. And we're seeing more land sales. We don't want to be in the land business. The county has no business in that. But we do look at every piece of property to see if we need it for drainage, to see if we need it to protect our lakes and our wetlands. And if we don't need it for anything, then we try to get it back out. This coming Tuesday, there's a few that the board will be approving that people have bid on. It's going to produce another $28,000 in sales, so revenue to the county. And that helps lower that millage rate. Business park. You knew that we were able to sell our shell building out there to a great company that had jobs that provided. We have more interest out there. We have some offers that people want to buy more land in the business park. So that's finally starting to happen. It really feels like Putnam County is at the right place at the right time right now. And finally, the rubber's meeting the road and traction's developing. Years ago, the GP expansion, that was very instrumental for this county. GP, some people might have thought, well, they got all the money, they'll stay no matter what. That's not how it works. It's a competitive market. And we were able to give some tax abatements for them to provide jobs. And they have actually done more than what they said they would do. And I'm not able to share all the details, but I can tell you it's great to have that business here. And, I wonder what Palatka would have looked like back in the 50s if Hudson Pulp and Paper wouldn't have came here and all the mill houses and all those things that went on back in those days. Also, we're going to regain pretty soon our prominence in Florida as being the largest solar producing county, and that's really good. So there's more solar farms coming on board. They don't really cause any noise in the neighborhood. They're not killing any birds. They're not doing all the weird things that everybody thought they might do. Actually, most people don't even know they're out there where they're getting put at, and it's a really, really good thing. And again, Putnam will be the largest solar producing place. And who could not say Seminole expansion at this point with the new reducing that coal fire, going to natural gas, putting the pipe in. Great thing for our county. It's providing jobs and lots of jobs right now. And and they might not be here to stay, but there's a lot of people when they come here and they're working, they fall in love with this place. And they're calling you and saying, how can I get here? During the COVID shots over in the East Palatka, we had Army Reserve people telling me, where can I get land at? Well, here's some realtors. Give them a call. Find somebody. Because they're like, we live in Middleburg, and it's becoming Jacksonville, and we don't want to do that anymore. And now with the outer Beltway coming, 20 being done, 17 being done, 207, you can get to anywhere pretty quick right now and still live in a rural area. And then last year, trying to give away $14 million of CARES Act money, that was interesting to say the least. If it was my money, I could be broke today, but when it comes with strings on it and the government, you can't just throw it away. So we had to be very good, and I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Julianne in the back there and all the hard work that she did. Again, you think it's easy to give it away, and it's really not. So they did a great job. And I want to go back to what I said earlier and when I started, because I'm going to introduce Jim and let him take it from here. But I want to really introduce Mr. Suggs, and Mr. Suggs has come to us a few years back, and I think has just done a remarkable job putting a team together. We have the most transparency, I think, than we've ever had. We have the most accessibility that we've ever had. There's not a time that goes by that, and I know you hear the problems, I hear the problem. I get the emails from you. But when we find out that that's really not the problem, and the problem was something else, these guys are willing to do whatever they can to make it work. And I just really want to say, Mr. Suggs, thank you for being here and putting the team together that you did. So that's going to kind of end my presentation, if you don't mind, and I will turn it over to Jim. Thank you, Jim, and you can introduce your staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Troiano. I'm the Executive Director for Planning and Development Services, and I do welcome you all here tonight for an opportunity for you to learn more about our organization, the things that we do, and how we can work collaboratively together, not only today, but moving in the future, for the dealing with all the needs that we have from real estate, dealing with property, and trying, as we would say, get people across the finish line. That's what we want to do. We want to have it as quick as possible, but as efficient as possible, so we provide a good work product and that we have a great working relationship. Before we get started, I'd like to say that each of you have a packet. In that packet is the letter that initially started from Larissa advertising this meeting. On the back of that packet is your agenda for today. Also included is a PowerPoint presentation, which I have here, and I'll be glad to provide to you all after this meeting. And then finally, a letter that I'll go over later. It's dated back in 2010 from our former Executive Director, Mr. Brian Hammonds, but I think it's very applicable today. Still some of the issues that we saw then we're seeing today. So it's something that we could use in our conversation. And as you do have questions, as the chair mentioned, there's a microphone right next to the hand sanitizer. Please walk up to that microphone and grab it. You're welcome to step back, use it, talk as you need. But that'll be our point, if you don't mind, for us asking questions. So if you have any needs that we can provide, just please let us know. I would like the opportunity to introduce staff that's here. Starting up front, Miss Jenny Kidd. Jenny is our staff assistant. She's taking minutes today for the meeting since it was advertised and we have 2 elected officials in the room. We're just required to take minutes, and Jenny does a fantastic job for us, and thank you for being here, Jenny. I'd like to start on the left of the dais, Miss Wendy Hickey. Wendy is our senior planner. If you can give them a little wave, Wendy. She is doing a great job for us, recently acquired from Flagler County, so great asset for us. Sitting next to her is Mr. Gabriel Quintus. Gabriel is our senior planning manager. He is responsible for all planning and zoning matters in our planning and zoning office itself. Gabriel also is a new employee for us, came from the city of Titusville, is a resident here of Putnam County, and he's done a great job for us. Sitting next to him is Mr. John Siafi. John is our building official. John oversees all permitting, all building official type duties to include inspections, as well as provides oversight and management for our code enforcement officers, should I say. And next to him is Executive Director Mike Troxel. Mike is responsible for our public works. And so there's a lot that we talk about from road standpoint. So I think we've assembled the members that we need here to answer your questions. If we can't, we'll certainly jot them down and provide a response to you as soon as we can. If there's no questions before we get started, please, you can look at the monitors or you can look at your handouts that are in front of you. So I'd like to get started. A little overview of planning and development services. This is our opportunity to provide a little education to you as to who we are and what we do. We're approximately 35 positions at this point. As you can see from the organizational chart, we're broken into 3 distinct areas. Planning and zoning, which is managed by Mr. Quintus, and then from the building department for Mr. Siafi, and then our animal control office for Miss Kathy Tillman, who was our manager. And as you can see, the staff that are responsible and report to those particular supervisors. An interesting point to note out here is that the board, we've gone to Mr. Suggs, we've expressed to him our needs that we had from a staffing standpoint. It's been brought up to the board. The board has now approved 2 new positions for us. We've been approved for a planner 2, as well as a plan examiner. These are positions that are going to help us get this process to continue to move smoothly and to help answer the questions that we have from our general public. So when our administrator listened, he was there for us, and our board listened, and they were there for us, and they're helping us through this process. I certainly thank them for providing that extra staff for us. However, we haven't hired them yet. So we do have 2 positions open. If anyone knows or if anybody's qualified to be a planner, please go to our website, as well as going to or giving us a call. And the plan examiner's position, the same way, the information's there on our website, and Mr. Siafi would be a great contact. So if you know anybody out in the community, these are 2 great jobs that are open. We offer good benefits, and we're looking for great qualified candidates to be part of our great team. So that's just an overview of what planning and development looks like and an organizational chart. So I'd like to break them down very quickly for you. So from a planning and zoning standpoint, we do the lion's share, obviously, of all planning and zoning for Putnam County. We serve as an advisory role to the board, to the Planning Commission, and to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. We offer a lot of services. One of the main services that we do is interpretation of our land development code. Our land development code will be changing soon. We are going out to RFP soon. We're going to look for a new consultant, or should I say a consultant, to help us develop our land development code. We hope to have it completed within 2 years. We hope by July that we'll have a consultant on board. And it's going to be an important process for us to hear what you have to say about the land development code and what changes you may want to see in it. So that process is coming up soon, and you'll see some new things from us, not only in the paper, but you'll also see it on our website and information that we'll be putting out to your association. Again, we need your cooperation, and more important, we need your input and opinions as to how the land development code should be changed. We also have our comprehensive plan, our future land use. We're almost finished with that. That's been a few-year process in itself. Hopefully, on we have a meeting coming up with the Planning Commission on the 12th. We have data analysis as the last part of our comprehensive plan for them to look at. If approved, we'll be moving to the May 25th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners to adopt the data analysis, to adopt the comprehensive plan, and have it transmitted to Tallahassee. And all of our agencies, other local and state organizations, governments, for their review, so we can move forward with that. And that's still open for public comment, and public comment is certainly welcome and appreciated at each of those meetings. So again, the Planning Commission meeting on the 12th of May, and the board meeting on the 25th to get our comprehensive plan finally where it needs to be moving towards Tallahassee and final approval. We do offer a lot of services in this office. Many of you are familiar. Many of you call and ask information about parcels. What can we do on this particular parcel? Can it be split? Is it part of a subdivision? So these are some of the services that we offer: lot split and inquiries, pre-application meetings with applicants. We want to talk to people and give them the best information we can to begin with, so they can begin to craft and bring their message together, or their project together, to where it can conform with our land development code, our comprehensive plan, and we want to help them through that process. And we do a lot of that. As a matter of fact, Mr. Quintus and staff meet on Tuesday in the afternoon for our pre-application meetings. We do site review committee meetings. We also do development review. Some of you have projects currently underway, and we review those to provide you guidance and input back as to the permitting process and the next steps moving forward. Variances, special use and temporary use permits, subdivisions. As you can see, anything land-related is taken care of by the Planning and Zoning Office. And we closely work with the Building Department, our Code Enforcement, and the Property Appraiser's Office, as well as Mr. Troxel and staff at Public Works. And finally, our services are only rendered to those residents in the unincorporated area. Each of the municipalities and towns in Putnam County have their own zoning responsibility. As you're going to see in a second, permitting will be a different story when it comes for building, but from a planning and zoning standpoint, the unincorporated area and the municipalities and townships take care of their own zoning responsibilities. Any questions about planning and zoning, just very quickly? Okay, seeing none. The building department, again, this is Mr. Siafi. They do a lot there. There's a lot of work that comes through there. If you have an opportunity later this afternoon, you want a tour of our office to see the work that's there, there's a lot happening in Putnam County, and COVID didn't slow us down, and staff has continued to do a great job. They're responsible for all permitting, inspections of new construction or things that are being built that require inspection, contractor licensing through Mr. Siafi's office, plan review, pre- and post-application meetings with applicants. We do have a contractors board. We also have to look at floodplain management, how wetlands and how the floodplain affects how we build things. And we have a floodplain manager in Mr. Don Peckham that evaluates those applications and provides the information and works with the applicants. And so from here, it's a little different. We do have interlocal agreements or memorandums of understanding with the city of Palatka, Crescent City, Interlochen, and Pomona Park. So in addition to everything in the unincorporated area of Putnam County, in those cities and towns that I've mentioned, we do provide their building permitting and inspections for them. So everything comes through this office. We look at the zoning from the municipality, but from an inspection standpoint through the Florida Building Code, and all those processes come through our office. And we have, again, those agreements with those towns. We do have a big announcement to make. It's coming soon. It's going to be a really big benefit for us here in Putnam County and how we do business and how many people in the community do business is a new software called Citizen Serve. And I'd like to ask Mr. Siafi to kind of just give us a little overview on that, please. John?
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon. So Citizen Serve will move Putnam County to a majority of online submittals. You'll be able to submit plans, permits, applications. A lot of the residents still won't want to do that. They still want to come in and visit with us, but it'll benefit our contractors because they can expedite their process. Any changes to plans, they can submit those online. So it should expedite the process rather quickly compared to how we're doing it now. So I got high hopes for this process, and it's been a lengthy implementation process. If we go live and we don't have it perfect, then we'll have all kinds of problems. So we're working through all the modules: planning, zoning, code enforcement, building. It's going to be all one main hub. So hopefully all your clients will be able to submit for permitting relatively easy.
Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
Any questions about the building department? Okay, moving on. Another aspect that I mentioned to you about planning and development services is code enforcement. Again, falls under Mr. Siafi's shop. We do conduct investigations. We listen or field citizen complaints concerning violations or potential violations of our land development code and our housing code. They are involved with abatements, foreclosures, liens, and fines. We use a special magistrate here, an attorney that we contract with to hear our cases. Those cases are decided by the special magistrate. Staff works closely with planning and zoning, as you would expect. The building department, public works, local law enforcement. There are times where we're called out. Sheriff's office does a raid. There's the house is now unlivable. We will go out. We'll look and make determinations. Mr. Siafi and his staff will to determine whether occupancy can continue or not. So there's a lot of cooperation back and forth between local law enforcement and our code office. And much like the building department, our services are contracted also with, in addition to the services we provide to the entire county, the unincorporated area, we do through an interlocal agreement with Interlochen and Pomona Park. So we take care of their code enforcement needs also. So as you can see, there's a lot that we do on a daily basis, not just for the residents of the unincorporated area, but also for our municipalities and towns. And finally, looking at planning and development is our animal control. Ms. Kathy Tillman, who's not here with us tonight, she is our manager at Animal Control. We are a no-kill shelter. They conduct investigations into our violations of our county ordinance, dealing with cats, dogs, complaints. There's a lot that they do on a daily basis. Our shelter is full of cats and dogs, and we do have a wonderful adoption program, so if anyone is interested in any of our animals, or if you have family or friends that are interested in some of our animals, please give us a call, and we'd be glad to get them out of our shelter and get them into wonderful homes. We do assist law enforcement quite a bit. We're currently helping them with some large animal issues at this time, but there are a lot of calls that we work with together. We do bring code cases to the special magistrate, and we work closely with law enforcement and our towns that we contract with, and those towns are Crescent City, Interlochen, Pomona Park, and Willaca. So we provide animal control services for almost everyone except for the city of Palatka. And if I may, I'd like to introduce Commissioner Jeff Rawls, who just in the back of the room. Commissioner Rawls, welcome. Thank you for coming. And the last thing I want to mention about animal control is that you've heard a lot about it, but we have a new shelter coming. And Commissioner Rawls is actually in the forefront of this, helping us with staff, getting this thing, spearheading it together. And hopefully in the next couple of years, we will see a brand new facility next to the sheriff's office out at the jail. So I'd like to talk briefly about our shop itself. Our office is 2 suites down in Suite 300. We're open Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5. In our office is the Department of Health. They have their environmental office there. So folks, we're really a one-stop office that if you want to come in and do E911, if you need well and septic tank permits, it's all done in our office. Even though the health department is using our office space, they're part of our team and the services that we offer. The health department is open from 8 to 4:30. Their hours are just a little different than ours. And in our lobby, if you haven't been in there, we have open space, we have desks, we have computers. So there's an opportunity for our customers to come in and use our facilities, and staff is able to work with them on their issues. So the last thing I want to talk about here about our development services is our webpage. We've recently made some changes to it. We've added more information on there as to what to expect, where to get information. We have frequently asked questions and answers. We have links now to our comprehensive plan. As I mentioned, that our land development code is being rewritten soon. However, we've now changed from the current format that it's in the numbering system, and it's now all on MuniCode. So if you've ever used MuniCode before, all of our information is now codified there from our land development code. So what may have been Article 2 for uses in Putnam County is totally different. So the numbering system has changed, the text hasn't. So that's where these links will direct you to, whether either to our comp plan or to our land development code from Unicode. So are there any questions before I get into the next segment of our presentation? What I'd like to do is, one thing I asked Larissa as we started planning this is to field questions ahead of time for us. Questions that her group, her peers had with, that could be answered by our office. And so we received quite a few, and if I can at this time, I just want to go through them. They're in your packet. I'm sorry if it's very small font, but you're welcome to look at the screens above you. So the first question I'd like to present to you is our concerns over staffing with calls not being answered and returned. So I have to say that we do apologize for that. We know that there have been some delays, and we've tried our best to minimize that impact to you, to our customers, and to our staff who also relies on what we have. However, we have experienced staffing changes. We've experienced illnesses, extended illnesses, up to a month for one particular employee. You saw our staffing when I first provided this organizational chart For planning and zoning, it doesn't go very deep, and when we start missing people that are in critical roles, it makes then the responsibility of others to not only do their work, but to pick up the work from those that are missing. We also had new hires, like I mentioned, Mr. Quintas and Ms. Hickey, and bringing them on board and getting them trained. So there are some delays in that process. Unfortunately, we did get behind. That's the catalyst that pushed us forward to look at getting some new employees. However, just besides the new employees, we've also looked at managing our work product differently, looking at our processes, trying to streamline the best we could, putting information on our website that we were having delays, calling people back, letting them know we're sorry things are taking a little longer than expected. But we've also had a tremendous increase in workload. And because of that it just takes time. As you know, when you're selling a piece of property, you want to be accurate in what you do. Well, when you ask how you can use this property, we want to be accurate in that too. So it may take several hours to do one lot inquiry. I want to know if I can build on this property. Okay, well, that property has been split twice. It was part of a subdivision. You have homes on it already. So I'm just hypothetically saying some of those require a lot of in-depth detail, looking back to our maps, looking back to our old files, dealing with the property appraiser's office. So we do apologize for the delay. Things are starting to speed up, and hopefully with new staff, the process will continue. So that was one of the questions, the first question, and I just wanted to make sure that you all are aware that we are taking steps and trying to close the bridge or the gap as soon as possible. The next question, cost for zoning letters and other information requests. Well, if you ask for an actual written zoning verification, it's $35. Doing a lot inquiry, it would be $25, and a lot inquiry letter would be $45. Those are based on staff time and effort, and I can tell you some of these lot inquiry letters take 4 and 5 hours of staff time to really review and look at, and that's just not one staff, that's sometimes more than one. So we do have a schedule of fees that the board approves each year, and we go by that schedule of fees. So we have, for all of our applications, have a fee associated with them, and when we provide that information to the applicant, we provide it at that time to them. Next question, what can we do for properties that do not meet current comprehensive plan size requirements? And here's your answer. A property that an individual wishes to subdivide that does not meet the current comprehensive plan land use density requirements requires a land use amendment. An application for land use amendment is not a guarantee of recommendation of approval or final approval by the Board of County Commissioners or the Department of Economic Opportunity. Residential properties that have substandard lot size were legally created prior to December 19, 1991, described on a deed or other legal document of record recorded prior to the same date, and meet the requirements of the lot of record in our Land Development Code Section 45798, may be permitted to construct a single dwelling unit. Determinations of lots of record are made by our department. So there's a lot that I just said. If people have questions about their property, give us a call. We'd rather tell them ahead of time what they can and can't do rather than them taking steps and not being able to use the property because it was not done in accordance with our Land Development Code. Next question, do code and building requirements allow for tiny houses and container homes? We get this question, Gabriel, how many times a week are we getting this question? And a lot. People want to bring the smallest teeny tiny, I want to live off the grid, I want to have a home in a container. Well, as Mr. Siafi answered this question, the Florida Building Code has provisions for tiny homes in it. For container homes, an architect or an engineer can help them look at their occupancy design and ultimately present those plans to our staff for review to ensure that they meet the Florida Building Code. And not only that, we want to ensure that the setback requirements for that zoning district are met also. So there's quite a few hurdles to overcome, but those are things that we certainly work with on a daily basis. Here's another, vested subdivisions. List the subdivisions that are currently unbuildable. We recommend that any questions concerning unbuildable subdivisions be sent directly to us for evaluation. Each subdivision should be looked at, must be looked at on a case-by-case basis. And subdivisions, vestings are addressed in our Land Development Code. So again, when we look at these subdivisions, there's a lot. There's a lot that are unrecorded. There's some that are just that haven't been in existence for a while. There's a lot of still platted lots that are out there from these subdivisions that people are doing different things with, and we have concern with that. So we want to work with those potential owners of those properties to give them the best guidance possible. Next question, building permit rules for residential 2 zone properties that were deed restricted or had deed of restrictions attached to it for site-built homes. Deed restrictions and covenants are not enforced by the county. Deed restrictions are the responsibility of the owner to abide by and follow. Any deed restrictions recorded independent of the deed are normally discovered in a title search and carry with the transfer of land. Next question. What are current regulations for parking motorhomes on your property in the county? And this is another one we get quite often. RVs or recreational vehicles may not be used as a permanent shelter or housing solution under any circumstances, and they may not be attached to a permanent foundation or other structure. Use of a recreational vehicle as a temporary shelter in the residential zoning districts is limited to a maximum of 14 consecutive or 120 non-consecutive days in any calendar year. This temporary use does not require a temporary use permit, but is subject to different requirements depending on the zoning district in use and standards described in our land development code. The use of an RV as a temporary shelter in other situations, such as during land clearing of the site, construction of a home, or during extreme hardship situations, much like the need for a home because of a medical issue, having a second home, these are different standards, and depending on the situation, which are described in our land development code. Such uses require the issuance of a temporary use permit by our department prior to the commencement of the use of the RV for the temporary shelter. So we want to help people through these questions. We get them all the time. Our temporary use permit process is open. It's very functional, and we do issue them as we need to. Can existing septic tanks be used if they pass inspection? Well, I asked the health department this question. And per our health department, yes, they can have an existing permit. What they would request, though, if you have questions about septic, to please call this office, their environmental health office, and the number is listed there. Cecil is their manager, and Miss Diane also works in that office. And I can tell you they hustle every day in there, answering questions and helping people with their questions. And again, they're all state employees, they're county health employees, or state health employees. Next question, are there any plans to reinstate impact fees? And if so, time frame? No, not at this time. There is no time frame. No direction has been given to us by the board to look at the implementation of impact fees. The next question, are there any plans to expand sewer and water to other areas of the county in the next few years? This is one of the areas that falls under Executive Director Troxell's area of expertise. And his response to this, for the next 5 to 10 years, the expansion will be in East Palatka and in San Mateo areas north of the Duns Creek Bridge. So we are moving forward, but those are the areas that we're looking at. The next question, is it possible to cancel out open permits over a certain number of years old? The answer is there are provisions in law on how to close building permits. And again, it depends on the individual situation. And Mr. Siafi and his staff are prepared to answer those questions as individuals call in. This is the last page, so I promise you we're almost there. In areas of the county where roads in areas of county where roads are county-owned but are not maintained, are there options to do more MSBU to improve our roads? Again, the answer is yes. We are working on the MSBU process now to make it a little more streamlined and easier for all parties. And you heard the Chairman Harvey talking about roads earlier. Next question, are the county commissioners still involved in the SHIP program? And are there other working grants or programs at the county level for housing? The answer is yes. We are still involved in the SHIP program, and Commissioner Pickens is our board representative on the Affordable Housing Committee. At this time, there are no other grants for housing at this time. And the last question, what is the turnaround time for a permit from the time the plans and drawings are submitted until you can pick up the permit? If all required documentation and plans are submitted, a permit can be issued within 3 to 4 weeks. So those are the questions, Larissa, that you presented to me. I had 2 emails. One had 1 question. The rest of the questions were contained in another. So those are the responses that you have. This is the staff that made those responses. I hope that helps. And again, I can share this PowerPoint presentation with anyone. Really, at this point, now that we're at in our program, is opening up the mic and looking to you for questions that you may have of us and for staff that we can answer or take down and answer at some time in the future as we find an answer. So please, whoever would like to start, you can come to the microphone up here. And we just ask for you to say your name and ask the question.
Jim, can I make a point of clarification?
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner. Yes,
On
I heard the echo out here. I'm sorry.
On the affordable housing, there are actually grant programs that are available aside from the SHIP. One of them is the Florida Housing Finance Corporation has a home ownership program for, excuse me, for I believe the threshold is family income of less than $37,000 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood. There's a $35,000 grant for families that have someone living in the home that has a disability. Otherwise, it's a flat $25,000 grant. That can be for new home purchase or existing home purchase. There's also, the United States Department of Agriculture has repair grants, $7,000. That's a pretty quick and easy grant to get. And they can go up from there as long as the homeowner has homeowner's insurance. So those are a couple of programs that are out there. And then the USDA also has the Rural Development Mortgage Program. If you guys aren't familiar with that, I can talk to you about that later on after the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for helping us with that. Before we take your questions, in your packet, the last paper that's there, it's a letter that was written September the 7th, 2010. It's in reference to lot splits and subdivision of land. It was written to the real estate professional, the land surveyors or title insurance professionals. And as you can see, and I'll read it with you, the Planning and Development Services Department continues to encounter many lots in all parts of Putnam County that were not legally created under the Land Development Code. Please assist us in reminding the public to check with our department prior to splitting property and conveying new lots. We will advise them if the property can be divided, the number and size of parcels that can be created, and the appropriate process necessary to accomplish the desired division. Please be advised that no building permits will be issued on any lot created in violation of the Putnam County Land Development Code. Once an illegal subdivision and conveyance to a third party has occurred, correcting the violation can be both costly and time-consuming. We appreciate your assistance, and as always, if you have questions about the Land Development Code, Building Code, please contact that office, or the office, and that was Mr. Brian Hammonds. And the reason I brought a 2010 document and presented it to you is we're still looking at some of the same issues. People call us and say, we bought this property, we didn't know that there was issues associated with it. And so we're trying to see if we can get the message out through you and others to please call us, because at the property appraiser's office, Clay Davis and other staff are very clear. They tell people all the time, you can split this property all you want, you can buy and sell what you want, but can you use it later? And we're going to tell you, if you're going to split this property, the county's going to tell you no, and people do it anyway. And so that becomes hurdles for us to overcome. They're not permanent hurdles that we can't overcome, but as Mr. Hammond said in his letter, they can become costly and very time-consuming. So if we can help them ahead of time make good decisions, then that's what our job is to do. And having that relationship with you all, our builders, everybody else in the community is of paramount importance, not only to me and the board and Mr. Suggs, but all your staff that you see here. So we look to you for your guidance and any questions that you may have at this time to help educate us, as well as we can help educate you as to the processes at hand. Larissa, you want to start out? Come on. Yeah, here you go. Grab hold of that, and you can turn around and say hello. And
Hello, I'm Larissa Ricketts-Owens with Modern Realty. On the questions that were sent in, just out of curiosity, do y'all have a general idea of how many permits for new construction and new mobile home setups that we've had so far this year?
we do have that number, John. But we,
I don't have that number on hand, but I sent you a report on that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was.
Substantially more than last?
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think important here, and John's mentioned this, is that a lot of the people that are coming forward are owner builders. And would you just talk a little bit about that, John, for me?
Our owner-builder permit rate is 75% and higher. So what that means to you guys is when we get documents, they're not complete. And that's what slows the permitting process down. You submit for permit, we send you notes with 10 items on it, we get 3 of them answered back, we have to resend a note to you. So this process drags on and on. Contractors tend to already know what they have to submit. There might be a few things that they have to do, but it's a lot faster for contractor versus owner builder. So
Hopefully that online program will help to speed that up
we hope
a
so.
little bit. But what we're seeing as realtors right now is such a shortage of inventory.
Right.
That it's finally beginning to drive those lot sales back up again, because now it's finally cheaper in Putnam County to start from scratch than it is to buy an existing home. Now, a while back on the zoning letters and information requests, and it's been a few years, they wouldn't give a verbal, if somebody called and didn't want to pay for a written letter, they would not give a verbal response, but they will now.
Gabriel?
So a verbal response on what? Excuse me,
Just-
on whether
just
it's
on
buildable
general-
or?
On general zoning, on what they can do with the property.
Oh, we have no problem giving a verbal response on that.
Okay.
That's not an issue at
Okay,
all.
yeah, a few years ago, they were actually, and of course, like I said, there is a huge staff change, but a few years ago, they were actually requiring, and I think I'd contacted Larry back then, because
If I
they
can
wouldn't
add,
tell anybody.
if I can add on to that, let's just say that you want to do a lot split, and we give you a verbal approval to
It's
say.
not binding
I think
unless
you
it's in
can.
writing.
So part of our lot split process is for you to have a lot inquiry letter. We want to be able to look at that parcel ahead of time before you hire your surveyor, before you spend additional money. For $45, we think that's a reasonable way to ensure that if you're going to be moving forward, that we look at that process.
For just
and-
general questions.
We do it all the
they will do
time.
verbal.
I can tell you, we're fielding questions every day. Does this lot look buildable? Can we do this? And we give verbal responses, but also give the disclaimer
need
that
something in writing
you may
to-
need something in writing.
Is the new comprehensive plan, is it changing sizes of any of these parcels that are currently unusable?
It's going to change density in some of the areas. So if you look at the comprehensive plan and how it's laid out, you look at density. So let's just say you have an agriculture 1 and agricultural 2 future land use. In one, it gives you the number of homes per acre. And the other, so it's 1 in 10, and then the other one's 1 in 20. We're looking at changing the densities and eliminating agriculture 2 altogether in the future land use and bringing it to 1 in 10 for agriculture. So yes, we're looking at increasing densities. In other areas, we're looking at changing the amount you can have, like to say from an apartment complex standpoint. I think we were at 1 in 12, and we're going to 1 in, yeah, so we're looking at making changes, and the reason those changes are being made is that we've heard from the community. We've heard from builders. We've heard from property owners. They want to be able to use their property in a different way. They want to have the ability to have more density, more homes, more type things to place on that property.
Okay, and then just one more question, and I'll shut up. So there used to be a minimum square footage requirement for the county and their building requirements. There used, and like I said, I've been around for a long time, so it could be super, super old, and I just never realized that changed. It used to be like, it was like 700 square feet or 800 or something. But anyway, so that no longer pertains now that people are starting to do the tiny homes. And
It pertains, but the building code calls it out, not our local ordinance. The building code gives minimum room sizes. So if you can develop the home with those minimum room sizes, I think it ends up being around 4.25 square
Okay,
feet.
so it fits into those guidelines. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Here we go.
I just have a question regarding canals, because I get this question sometimes, and I don't want you to say, call your representative's office.
You do have the number to that
Yeah, I do
representative, don't
have
you?
that. So sometimes we get calls about, a subdivision is built and they'll have canals in them, and it was part of the subdivision. So we get asked questions regarding what can we do in the canal, who's responsible for the canal? Does that get referred to who? Department of Environmental Protection?
No, actually, much of that's handled in our office, whether it's
Okay.
handled from Mr. Peckham, from looking at what may need to be built there and looking from a floodplain standpoint. But you want to start out with that, Gabriel?
Sure.
Does it to Commissioner Turner every meeting, so it's okay.
Okay. So for canals, oftentimes the lot will encompass a portion of the canal, and
Yes.
there's a different setback for water bodies. So we consider, our setbacks for water bodies do apply, but we have certain environmental protection standards for water bodies that don't apply to canals.
Okay.
So it has to be an existing, naturally occurring water body in order for those additional buffering and setback requirements to apply. But with regard to maintenance, the maintenance is normally handled by the HOA. There's a whole lot of them that,
Yeah, just share a microphone with Mr. Siafi.
There you go.
there's a whole lot of subdivisions that don't have HOAs in
Yes.
place right now. And it's a difficult situation because the county oftentimes has drainage easements over those canals. And so Public Works will look at that at times, and if you want to comment on that at all, you can. But ideally, it's an HOA that's cleaning out those canals.
Yeah, for Public Works, we cannot do work in the canals, but we do have some drainage easements that will tie into the canals. But as far as the canals itself, we don't do any maintenance in them. That is strictly off limits for us.
Right. So a couple of the calls that I've fielded have been, this canal's here, we own part of it according to our deed, but we can't clean it out. Who cleans it out? Who's responsible for it? So we get that kind of information, questions.
I think a lot of that submerged aquatic vegetation, and you're looking at that, the DEP or the district are both good contacts for getting information. And John, you want to add anything on that?
No, you
Okay.
did good. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
Chairman?
Jim, out in West Putnam, years ago, some of y'all were in the room when the gentleman was buying a lot of those lake lots, lake bottoms, and trying to sell them back to the lake owners to give them property rights back to the lake. It was crazy, and the pink fence law came out and things like that. But that property's still owned. Some of it's owned by a private individual. Some of it's owned by the Land Conservatory. So it's just kind of a, thank God I own to the center of my lake, but not everybody does. And it's a little bit weird out there, so.
So we'll field your questions, and if we can't answer them, we'll direct you to the right source. And if it happens to be our representative, I promise to give you a call first.
Hey, Jim,
Sir,
do you mind while I have the floor for a second?
go ahead, Chairman.
There was a question about roads, and one of the things that I deal with a lot, especially out in the West Putnam area, is, well, these are county roads, and they've always been county roads. But really, they're not in some cases. Some cases, the developer has tried to give them to the county, but the county never accepted those areas. And you might say, well, how is that? Well, unless the county commission does a resolution to take those roads in, you can give me your horse all day long, but I don't want your horse. And believe me, people want to give us stuff all the time. And we, as a board, evaluate it and go, do we want it or not? Believe me, we have enough roads to take care of. And I really appreciate the previous commissions years and years ago that started those MSBU processes. It had to be, I was involved with the landowners, but it had to be a nightmare. It just had to be. But don't think that just because there's a sign out there that it belongs to us, because there's a lot of cases that they don't belong to us. And we have no jurisdiction on that road. And that's just, so it's kind of a weird, you hear about the ambulances getting stuck in these roads and people can't get out. But some people want to keep their road private too. And don't misunderstand that. They don't want the county messing with it until they need something, and then and I don't mean that ugly, it's just part of the process, And one last thing, this meeting is being filmed and taped, so if you have people in your office that have a question, they can go on our YouTube channel and watch this meeting today, okay?
Thank you, Chair. Anybody else with a question would like to come up? Mr. Hill? Tell him.
Tim Hotelling, I just have a couple quick questions. What's the difference between an RV and a tiny house? Can an RV be become a tiny house or vice versa?
So an RV mobile home, right, or a mobile
Yeah,
home
it's just-
is designed in a factory. It always remains an RV or a mobile home. It cannot be changed to a site-built home. It's regulated by DMV.
If I could, the tiny house infers that it's being built outside of a factory, probably at the property where it's being set up. That's not an RV.
We have to separate tiny home from RV. So just on TV, you watch Do-It-Yourself Network, and they build a tiny home on a trailer, that's an RV. That cannot be sited on a property.
Okay, it makes sense, it just seems the size and everything, they all have living areas and.
Because they're regulated by different areas of the code. So HUD regulates certain ones, the building code regulates a site-built home.
And pardon my ignorance, but you made reference to a couple letters. There's a zoning land use verification letter and the lot inquiry letter. I got a little bit of a hint from that, but if you, what do they do? What purposes?
So
I'll tell you from my perspective, what they tell a builder or a prospective owner or builder is their side setbacks or front setbacks, if the lot can even be developed, because not every lot can be developed. And when I first started building, the first thing we encouraged owners to do was to go down and get a copy of their lot letter.
And that's for a lot inquiry letter. A zoning verification letter will just tell you the zoning and the land use.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please.
Good afternoon, Phil Leary. Most of my comments are going to be to the commissioners, but a couple of recommendations. The lot splits, that needs to be completely eliminated out of the plan and out of the land development code. As a planner, I can tell you that serves no purpose in growth management and sequential, development. It's just, and it's one of the most draconian requirements that I've ever seen as a planner in my 30 years.
Can you expand on that? I'm not sure.
Well, if you have a 10-acre lot and you want to split it into 5-acre lots, the zoning's R1A, which is,
I got you.
third of acre lot. You easily meet all the zoning requirements. And so to have to wait 6 weeks, which is what the last lot split letter that my associate and I had, we had to wait for 6 weeks to get that done. It's absurd. And
So you're suggesting move straight into,
why do you need a lot split? It's all controlled by the land development code.
Right.
All of it by development. If you are a subdivision, 3 or more lots, then you have to do a subdivision, has to be paved roads. All that's in there. There's just no reason to do a lot split. It's the responsibility of the landowner that's selling the property and their realtor to determine that it meets the zoning and the use that they want to use the property for.
I don't disagree. I actually just did a lot split, so I'm following what you're saying. So you're suggesting they walk in, they already have their surveyor do the lot split, they're ready for their.
No, I'm not saying that they don't need to do any lot. Why does the county have to be involved in somebody splitting their property? Except for the property
Split the property,
appraiser.
they have to hire a surveyor to establish the boundaries and.
They just
draw
have
up
to have a survey.
Right.
Or
And
they can
then-
do a meets and bounds.
And then they turn it into the county surveyor looks at it to make sure that it meets the requirements of the county.
Why does the county have to do that?
Who's gonna sign the parcel ID number?
But that's the property appraiser. That's not the building and zoning department. Anyway, I can explain.
Well, another reason too, though, is you could have conflicts with water and sewer or wells and septics, depending what they have.
That is all the responsibility of the seller and the buyer and their realtor. For government to be involved in that process
Yeah, no,
is just
it would've made
another
my life a lot
level
easier,
of,
yeah.
it's just another level of bureaucracy that's completely unnecessary.
It was a 3-month
And I can
process
tell
for
you
me.
that it does nothing for growth management and planning.
What do the counties do it like that?
I'm not aware of any, and I work in probably 20 counties in North Florida. No other
They
county
don't have that
requires a
there,
lot
okay.
split, no.
I can address the issue, the
Well, you don't
purpose.
have to. I'm hoping that this commission will come to their senses and make that change.
I won't come to my senses until I'm educated, I can promise you that. I'm as ignorant as
Okay.
the day is long when
Well,
it comes to that.
I'll be glad to
Phil, that's a little
sit
bit
down
out of
with you.
line. That's a little bit out of line. Just state what you want to say.
Well,
but
I am, Larry.
We're
I'm
not
just
out of
saying.
our senses here,
I'd like to
okay?
hear staff's
Thank you.
response, actually.
Well, you through?
Stepped over the line. The staff was going to answer that, but you cut them off.
Well, I don't need an explanation of it. I know
All right,
where we are.
So you want your 3 minutes of fame? Is that what you're looking for?
No, I'm not looking for anything.
Thank you.
The other thing that I'd recommend is the density issue. The density issue is also irrelevant. In 1985, when we were going through the comprehensive plan process, the Department of Community Affairs at that time decided that your overall density, residential density, couldn't be more than 125% of your projected growth rate over the 10-year period. That was an incipient rule. It never was adopted in any type of legislation or any administrative rule, but something that at that time, the Democratic Secretary of the Department of Community Affairs decided this was a way for us to control growth. Again, even Charles Lee with the Audubon Society will tell you it's done nothing to control growth because the growth is controlled by your land development code and what's required for development. So prior to 1985, the density in agricultural zoning was 1 unit per acre. And I'm not advocating you go back to that. I'm just saying all this misinformation that's been submitted about density is just smoke and mirrors.
If I could address that real quick, it's not smoke and mirrors, but we met with the county at a lot of visioning sessions as well as comprehensive planning sessions, and what came out of those meetings was that Putnam County wants to be very rural and very agrarian in nature. And with that, we've got the density set. We did double the density for agricultural property from Ag 2 and Ag 1, just Ag, and you get 1 house per 10 acres. Somebody can apply for a PUD, and they can get a lot more density if they want.
By clustering.
By what?
By clustering.
Correct.
Yes.
So, and then in the urban services area, we do have 24 units per acre as far as maximum density, but we're trying to grow responsibly, but not look like St. John's or some of the surrounding counties that are starting to have issues because of the growth that they've experienced over the past 10 to 15 years.
Okay, yeah. I'm well aware of the growth in Clay and St. John's and all those counties, and we are at a point now where we've got a unique opportunity, and the real estate market is as hot as it's been since 2006, and we're struggling to get phone calls returned or going through the process of a rezoning application.
Right now, I'm feeling $150 million worth of growth and expansion myself just for my business. So it's here, it's coming, and it's being handled. There's a lot of work that's in the pipeline that people are not able to talk about. So we're not St. Johns County. We don't have water and sewer infrastructure all over the place. We're not Clay County, obviously. We don't have 4,700 new homes fixed being dropped in our backyard.
Jeff, I understand all that. I've been here all my life. I was a planning director here and in Clay County, so I understand that completely. We never will be because the cost to put in infrastructure is,
Well, we'll
almost
find
prohibitive.
the right developers who are willing to put up the money and do the CDD work or the work that would normally be required by a CDD to put in the water and sewer. They'll put in their subdivisions. They'll bring that. We won't have to pay for it as taxpayers, and I think that's where most of the people in Putnam County want to be.
Well, and I guess, what I was told the meeting was about was, how we got to this point where you've got a whole group of realtors here, and it's not just an educational thing about planning and zoning and building. I think most of them that's been in the business for a long time understand completely what's required. But how do we get to a point where we lost probably the preeminent planner in North Florida, Mike Brown? I told you 2 years ago when you ran, I've told Larry, we needed help in planning and zoning. And so now here we are in probably the highest demand for real estate, and we're sitting here, and God bless them, I'm sure they're highly qualified people.
I can sit and tell you that we've had every opportunity to screw the pooch, and we've taken every opportunity to do it.
Agreed.
I could start off with education and the fact that we don't have a workforce here. You can line up all the work you want. You don't have anybody ready to build. You don't have resources like a truss plant that shut down about 3 months ago, right down the street from here. You don't have a truss plant there now. I can't get trusses. I'm 12 to 16 weeks out. You guys want houses built? Get the resources available. You got a drywall mud shortage coming up. We're experiencing a lot of shortages and a lot of issues in building. You can line up all the houses you want. You're not going to get them built. We aren't ready for it here in Putnam County. Unfortunately, the big builders, Lennar, Pulte, Syntex, all those guys, they've got the resources tied up, including the labor. We don't have the opportunity right now. We're not going to be able to slam stuff in the ground. I would love to start 3. I have permits in Willaca waiting for me to pick up. I'm not interested in picking them up because I'm not going to take a loss on a job, on a contract that I have, because lumber prices have quadrupled since I signed the contracts.
What's that got to do with the fact that we now are at a point where we all are struggling, taking 6 weeks to get a lot split? 3 days ago, I called for a simple question for a client.
I'm talking 12 weeks to get lumber engineering.
No. I'm not talking about building. I'm talking about how do we get to this point with where we are with the planning and zoning department.
We're busy, but we also had $160,000 left in last year's budget at the end of the budget year. It's not like we can just go out hiring. We don't have the money. So we're going to have to look at alternative funding sources to get some of the stuff done in order to be able to move ourselves forward. But
So
that's
you're
a
saying
whole
we didn't
different
have money
conversation.
to have staff, so that's why we find ourselves where we are today. But now we've got money that we're going to hire 2 more people, right?
We're forced to do it. We're taking
Okay,
money out of reserves
okay.
to do it right now. We'll figure out how to fund it later. We're responding to the demand as fast as we can.
Okay, just a final recommendation. On your schedule for your rezonings and comp plan amendments, special uses, any of those, conditional use, if you could put on the website what the timeframes are for submittal and when you would go to your first hearing, that would be tremendously helpful so we can tell our clients, hey, it's going to be 90 days, it's going to be 120 days, it's going to be 6 months, and, that type of thing, because that's really important. Time's money, and, when you're representing a client and they want to get something done, if it's going to be 6 months, usually they're going to go somewhere else.
So, Mr. Lear, if I may, so the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustment, both of those is what you're looking at from a schedule?
And the commission, if it goes to the planning commission.
It's part of that. It's all included.
Right.
So, okay,
Yeah.
I have your comments. Thank you. Anyone else, please?
I have one I talked to yesterday. Her question was and I understand the staffing situation, that was my answer to her, but I just want to get an official one from staff that's recorded, was when she manages a bunch of houses and stuff that people don't live in the area, but they pull permits as a realtor for them sometimes and do things like that. Is there any way to get a consistent, they feel like, and we've gotten some calls and I've talked to you guys about it with some also code enforcement, but on both sides of it, to have a single person that handles the thing from end to end. And I know it's a staffing issue that we really can't, because we only have 2 or 3 people doing the work. But how can we improve that so if someone comes out and does an inspection or someone comes out for a code infraction, they get the same story each time?
John?
I guess I could use a defense situation as an example, but just the one that we all know about.
So I think the fence issue came after further review of the property. Okay. As far as the building inspector, me guaranteeing the same building inspector goes every time, I can't do that.
Right.
We cover 922 square miles with 5 guys.
The county got bigger?
How many is it, 900? Is it 790? I'm going with 922, buddy, it sounds better. So, I mean, it's hard for me, I rotate them and it depends on licensing. So if a guy has all the licenses and I have a lot of inspections in the west end of the county, that guy goes out there. He might not have been the guy that was there 2 days ago.
And that was my basic answer to her. I just wanted to make sure I was accurate.
And I want to clarify, because I hear St. John's does this process, St. John's does that process. St. John's has 20-plus inspectors. They have 13 permit techs, 10 or 12 plan review guys, and that number goes up every week. They always add people. So I can never compare with St. John's. But we still, I can tell you, we give the best service out there compared to.
If I could say this, I sent 7 people, or I sent 3 people down to 7 locations, and they start from Boynton Beach. We're looking at applying for a permit for a job down there. We were told that we would have a permit within 8 weeks. So this is Boynton Beach, Florida. We're no different than a lot of the other places. Everybody's busy, everybody's challenged, and I can tell you as a consumer of his department, I get frustrated, but at the same time, I understand we've all got jobs to do, and they're doing theirs. And I would pit our plans reviewer and inspectors against any other county in Florida. St. Johns County is a builder's dream if you want to get away with not doing your job properly as a builder. Putnam County is not going to be that. They're very efficient. They do their job right. So I just wanted to make that clear for the record.
Thank you, Commissioner. And to add a little clarity too, there are times where we get information like from a surveyor on a lot split that there are issues with the survey. Our county surveyor looks at that, sends them back. So you think about the delay time between review, all the work that the county surveyor has to do, and getting that information back out sometimes adds a few weeks back to that process, because then the surveyor must make those changes and send them back into our staff. So there are times when the process can be extended, much like Mr. Siafi sees with permits. When someone comes in, there are 3 weeks, there's some questions, it's got to go back. Well, they got to go back into the stack again. And so there's a process that the stack in line to be reviewed again. So when we do see issues that we help people overcome, that does extend the process a little bit.
Mr. Giano, may I say? And you also get the ones that recently an out-of-town mobile home dealer submitted a site plan for a mobile home on a piece of property and completely didn't follow the site plan whatsoever. Set it up completely off the site plan. And what do you do in that case? You know, now the client's calling us, wanting us to have a remedy here, and the remedy is your contractor put the home in the wrong location. And he submitted a site plan, and we would have denied that had he did the right site plan. We would have denied it because we would have seen it didn't meet the setback. But that's not what he did. He just dropped it where he wanted to and walked away and left the client holding the bag. And we look like the bad guys when we're going, it can't work that way. So believe me, there's always, like my Uncle Paul Harvey said, the rest of the story, and there's a lot of it. And I do need to make a clarification. Leota Wilkinson works for the Honorable Representative Bobby Payne, not Bobby Pickens, so I apologize. You know, sometimes what goes around my head doesn't come out the mouth the right way, so I apologize.
Any other questions? Anybody else have something you'd like? Please, sir, come on up to the microphone. If you'll just speak right into it so we can hear you and so the others can hear you on the video.
Maybe you answered this. I'm a little bit hard of hearing. But I noticed some tiny homes, I'm assuming, that are built for veterans just off of Palm. Are you familiar with those?
I am.
Yeah. Do they have a special, are tiny homes allowed?
Those aren't tiny homes. Those are site-built homes that meet the minimum requirements under the Florida Building Code.
Okay, so tiny homes are allowed, or just those? And I thought maybe they were built by Habitat. Were they built by Habitat?
They are.
And they're special homes just for vets?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so nobody else is
You can
allowed?
build those all over Putnam County, any piece of property. Those are conforming.
That was my question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We had, during the time that we talked about all this, we had the conversation about for a family split, like if you, an estate, you know, you have 100 acres. Could you just expound on that and some of the reasoning behind making that more flexible?
Okay.
Because I think that's been important to a lot of constituents. Right.
Right, so that would be a type 3 subdivision under the Land Development Code, and they're limited to 6 right now. And the main reason of the limitation is just to prevent so the type 3 subdivision is required to have a 66-foot easement accessing all of the lots. And the main reason on the limitation is to prevent the proliferation of lots off of an easement that may not be maintained. I mean, the code does require the maintenance of them, but all too often we see that they're not maintained, and so emergency vehicles often can't access them very well.
And that's certainly something that can be looked at when we look at the rewriting of the land development code. We've had some good questions. Anybody else have any other questions? Not seeing any. I want to thank y'all for being here and giving us some input. It's important that we hear your feedback. So if you have questions, please continue to call our office. In addition to the staff that you see here, Ms. Pam Washington is up front. Many of you met Pam. She does a great job for us. She's constantly interacting with citizens on a daily basis, providing a lot of the same questions or the answers to the same questions that you heard here today. And then, of course, we have Ms. Nancy Brown, who is our planning technician that does a lot of the lot splits. The variances that come in, people want to put a fence or change the height of a fence or have something move back and forth or whatever they want to do on the property. Ms. Brown does handle a lot of the variances from there. So we have a lot of good staff. They're working hard, and again, we're looking to hire 2 new people. So again, the message goes out, help us in the community. Hopefully we can find some local people that will fill the slots.
Hey, Jim.
Sir?
May I? And also I want to say this, there hasn't been probably 2 weeks since I've been here since 2014, that I don't bring a developer in to sit down with planning and development. It's a whole lot easier for us to bring somebody in on the front end, look at the property and see what we can do on it. I'm sure I'm not the only commissioner that does that. So if you have somebody that wants to do something, and it might just be this great idea or it's not going to fit, let's sit down and talk about it, because you'd be surprised at what we can try to make do. And we're seeing that throughout the whole county, is people are really coming up with some really neat things. They're renovating some really old places that are dilapidated, and we're seeing growth in those areas. So, don't go, hey, they're just not going to do that. Contact one of us or contact Jim or John and see if you can't just come in and sit down in the conference room and have that conversation, okay?
So if we don't have any other questions from our audience, Chair, do you want to have any closing comments, and we'll go down the line here with staff?
Well, I'd be glad to, and I want to say thank you again to Larissa for putting this together. It is important that we all sing out of the same songbook, and truly, you've got a staff right now that I feel like is the most transparent, the most accessible that's probably ever been here, and you've got a commission that wants to hear from you. We hear from our customers, you, all the time, and we want to hear more from you. So if there's something you don't like, something you want to change, we'll be glad to listen to those things. But do engage us. I hate it that you all sit out there and we sit up here. Almost wish it was the other way around in some cases, but those seats are really hard and these are really comfortable. So if we had to sit out there, our meetings would last about 15 minutes, trust me. But engage us, because we want to be engaged with you. Bring to the table. You're our first line of offense out there if you really stop and think about it. And those little lots that are being sold, try to sell more of them combined so we don't have all the little places. We'd like that better. Sell 10 lots and have them build one place, and sell 10 lots in 10 places. So, but we're here to help you. We truly are. I know you hear that a lot. We're government, we're here to help, but we really are here to help, and I promise you that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Suggs?
Sure, thank you, Jim. First of all, thank you folks for being here tonight, because this is exactly the kind of meetings that we need to have, so that when we're dealing with a particular set of issues, we can sit down, we can talk about it, we can figure out how we might be able to address them, figure out how we might be able to streamline some stuff and make things easier for you folks out there, because let's face it, the real estate market is absolutely on fire right now. So the best thing that we can do for you folks is work as quickly as we can to get the information back to you folks so you can make your sale, and that's what we're here to do. I'll answer a question that was presented earlier, how we got here. Listen, this is cyclical. We all know that. The market crashed a few years ago. We weren't in this situation that we're in today. We're very fortunate to be in the situation that we're in, and I'm not going to complain that we don't have enough help because of what's going on in our community. I am absolutely excited about what's happening. As we move forward, we will address staffing levels and try to get those individuals in place as fast as we can to assist with what's happening right now. But that's a good thing to have happening right now, and I'm very proud of that. Next thing is, as you saw and you heard from staff here today, no one up here shied away from your questions. No one up here is not willing to do what they need to do to assist you folks out there, and that's a compliment to them and their work ethic. And my last comment that I'll make is I'm just as proud as I can be that I got 3 commissioners here today, and I understand the other 2 are committed to other areas in their life right now. One's working, I know that. So, but my point is, you got 3 commissioners for essentially a town hall meeting with the realtors to answer any questions and hear from you folks that actually will help us drive what it is that we need to drive an administrative side of things to get the assistance that we're looking for you folks. So, I'm just proud of that as well, and thank each one of the commissioners for being here, and thank the staff for being here and doing what they're doing, and to thank you folks. So anything we can do on our end, please don't hesitate to call us. Taylor, I hope you don't mind, I'll use you as an example.
That's terrible, that might be.
But no, I'm proud of this. He had a situation that came up, he reached out to staff, we had a conversation, staff's been working on it, and that's what we do here. We can't fix things, if we don't know about it, but once we do know about it, it is our absolute responsibility to get back with you folks and assist in any way we can, and that's what we do. So thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Suggs. Commissioner Adamczak.
Yes, I just want to thank all of you for being advocates for our county when you show things to people throughout the community and coming in from other communities. I've dealt with Miss Nicosia, I've dealt with Joyce Davis, a little bit with Miss Larissa. I made a transaction with 2 of the 3. I have never put something together with Miss Larissa yet. I just look forward to it. When I first came and looked with Joyce Davis, was the first interaction I ever had as a realtor in Putnam County. I was looking for a house somewhere between Jacksonville and Tampa and Orlando, and I just kept coming through the forest, either coming through Interlochen or coming through the city of Palatka. And Joyce's place happened to be open, it was pouring, and I just stopped in there and I was like, hey, do you have any 4-bedroom rentals? Because I have a lot of kids. And she was like, 4-bedroom rentals? And then she was like, oh, wait, a woman that she had actually was getting ready to list the house. So that ended up being the first place we rented through Joyce, and then we later on bought our house through Nicosia. So appreciate everything you guys do, and we need you guys to keep that message going, the positive things that are happening in Putnam County. That's the only thing I could ask you guys. If you guys have something to ask me, I will do everything I can to make that message be as true as possible and to give a better message as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Rawls.
I just want to echo the same sentiments. I really appreciate you guys coming out, and this is really the way government gets done, is to have the citizens coming out. This is your government, you pay for us, and we really do need your input. I just shared with Mr. Troxel here to my right, it's very discouraging in my industry watching pricing go up. And I just looked at the lumber index for the first time in a week, and it's $1,540 right now, which is $1,540 per 1,000 board feet. And to put that in perspective, this time last year when we first shut down from COVID, it was around $400 per 1,000 board feet of lumber. So, if you're not a mathematician, it doesn't take you very long to figure out that's about a 400% increase in the lumber cost year over year. Trusses are the same thing. Plywood is even more egregious. A $16 sheet of half-inch CDX plywood last year is now $62 at Home Depot. If you don't believe me, go look. The cheap wafer board that everybody puts up, OSB, is no longer $10.50. It's now $37 a sheet. So I absolutely am in the same ditch that you're in when it comes to that. I have houses sitting on go, people that are ready to go. The problem is their financing only goes so far. And when we're looking, the National Home Builders Association 2 months ago reported that there's an average of $32,000 increase on per house increase on lumber costs year over year. So the people that are wanting to come into the county right now are wanting to come into shovel-ready lots that have access to water and sewer. I have people call me every week wanting to know if we have any lots available. There's a gentleman that bought 60 lots ahead of me down in Willaca. I bought 3 with an option to buy 2 more, and before I knew it, he had 60 of them wrapped up at the St. John's River Hill, and they have houses coming out of the ground. There's like 6 or 8 that are already out of the ground. He's building spec home. It's awesome when you see that kind of activity going on, because this is people that are bringing their money. They're building speculative housing. They know they're going to sell it because the market is that good. The problem is who wants to build a house at $85 or $90 a square feet, when you think back a year ago, you were at $70 a square foot. And that's what throttles me and a lot of my competition. We're just not in a huge hurry to take losses, and that's what it comes down to. So I would say, you know, stay the course. If you're talking to developers that are looking to develop real estate, I got one group looking at buying around 75 to 100 acres that wants to do quarter-acre lots with curb and gutter and all the accoutrements that go in with the modern subdivision over in East Palatka. One of the requirements is water and sewer, access to water and sewer, and that's a little bit of a challenge because we have water but not sewer, or sewer but not water out there. So, you know, we've got to get ourselves together, get on a path where we can get the infrastructure in, working with the city of Palatka, Crescent City, and Larkin to get access to their water and sewer, extending their lines out if possible, working with them would sure be good, because not everybody wants to build on 5 or 10 acres. I personally live on 3.5 acres. I wouldn't live on anything less of that at this point in my life, but there are the folks that want to live on smaller properties, and you guys are in the business of selling real estate, and if it's not available, you can't sell it. So I'm here to help you any way I can. You know, I can tell you that we have a lot of interesting challenges coming to Putnam County in the way of our workforce and home building, but also in jobs that are coming. So we got some exciting times, and I'm willing to work with you any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So that concludes our opportunity tonight. Staff is here to answer any questions. You can contact them by phone, contact them by email. We've made changes recently to our webpage to provide more information there and helpful information. If anyone needs a tour of our offices, we'll be glad to provide that to you. But again, on behalf of the board, Mr. Suggs, our office, Planning and Development Services, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here to talk to us. Please let us know your ideas and thoughts that you have. Remember, our land development code, we're going to go out soon, and we're going to need your help there in our comprehensive plan. 2 meetings this month, and hopefully we'll get it off to Tallahassee. So if there's nothing else, thank you again for being here tonight, and please have a safe travels back home. Thank you again very much. Bye-bye.
Where are you going to meet for the tour at?
We can meet right here.
Right here? Okay.